we are really flowing, like moving fast into the experience economy.
Oh
And
yeah.
people aren't looking to just go and do one thing. They want to
Hmm.
go and have an overall experience, whether that's
Right.
on their own or with their friends or the family. And so when you can help them create that experience, again, by creating those bundles or whatever, those packages, just guide them along where they don't have to
Hmm.
go and think about it, but leave some opening for serendipity and
Right.
opportunity once they're
Hmm.
there. I think that's going to help create that type of improved guest experience. It's going to get them to come back in more frequently.
Awesome. Thanks again for coming on, Brandon. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day. For the people who haven't met you yet, tell me a little bit about you and Hound.
Yeah, Forrest, it's great to be on your podcast. So excited to be here. Yeah, so Brandon Willey, the CEO and founder of Hownd, and we've been around for in the industry since 2016. So I think in the grand scheme of the attractions industry, fairly new, fairly young in the industry. But I'll tell you, the very first time that I went to my first exposure to the industry was going to the IAPA Expo, and then I very quickly from there I met a few people, met Beth Stanley, and she introduced me to the Bowling Summit. So I went to the Bowling Summit in 2017, and then Bowl Expo, and so just really just dove into the industry. Absolutely fell in love with the I'm going to say the broader attraction industry, but really the entertainment, family entertainment industry. All of the owners, proprietors just loved what they're doing, loved the passion they have for their industry, whether it's bowling specifically or just entertainment and more generally. I absolutely love that. And so there's really, frankly, no industry that I'd rather be a part of and be involved in than the entertainment attractions industry. It's awesome.
Mhm. Yeah, having your product be fun is a nice appeal. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like people are building memories, whether
Yeah.
they're just going on their own for some reason, like,
Hmm.
sometimes that happens, or they're building memories with their friends, with their families, with their kids, their grandparents, great grandparents. And I think that's what's cool, especially about the bowling industry, is that it spans like generationally
Yeah.
spans of just interest and fun. And there's not too many attractions and things you can do that really captures the interest collectively, from a 4-year-old pushing something down ramp to an 80-year-old who has been
Hmm.
maybe bowling for a large part of his or her life and is there
Right.
to celebrate that time with that 4-year-old. So there's very few attractions and things you can do like bowling. So
Mm.
it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I've heard somewhere that it's like the most accessible sport in the US. Something like 70 million people bowl every year, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's not
Anyone can do it.
surprising at all. Yeah, and same thing. It's one of those where a group of kids can go and have fun, and they want to go and do that for their birthday party, and then you have
Hmm.
these 20 somethings that want to go and they're just going to bowl because they want to hang out with their friends and social. They're going to have some good
Hmm.
drinks and some good food and hang out. And then again, can go and do that when they're looking for something to do on the weekend or on a weeknight.
Hmm.
Yeah, super accessible, and that's what's awesome about the sport.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally agree. So, Hound, walk me a little bit through like the birth of Hound, maybe even for people who don't know what you do, what you guys do, and how did you get here into the space?
Yeah, I think it's not that we saw some big glaring problem or need out there, and so we were like, we got to go solve for this. I think what is an evolution, ultimately where Hound has landed, and where we'll continue to go, will always evolve based on, I think, some of the core issues that small businesses have in general, but specifically businesses where you're attracting consumers to come and have an experience in your facility. And first of all, it's just getting people in the door on a frequent, regular basis. And that may not be a problem on a weekend, like on a Saturday, but it might be a problem on a Tuesday afternoon. So getting people
Hmm.
in the door is the core problem. I think some of the underlying issues out there is that the majority, it's what we saw anyway, what I saw when I started the company, is that the majority of the tools out there are do it yourself, what we call DIY
Right.
tools.
Yeah.
So you have to then have expertise, you have to have time. And if you don't have either of those things, then you have to hire somebody for that, either
Hmm.
outsourced or insourced. And it just becomes an extra burden. And so I felt like we could create a software platform that ultimately helps attract either past customers or nearby consumers in on a more frequent, regular basis. And so we've evolved what we call ourselves, how we talk about ourselves. And so now we call Hound sort of the next iteration of that. And we'll really be pushing in the latter half of the year and unveiling at IAPA Expo coming up is we want to really consider ourselves the experience promotional platform, right? The experience
Mm.
promotion platform. So we want to promote experiences to centers past customers and nearby consumers, and ultimately help them get more customers and make more money. And we do that in an automated, sort of effortless way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really like the way that you guys have everything siloed from like the offer, so that the center, all they have to do is just put it out there. And then you guys can even help with that too, as do we.
Yeah. Yeah, there's three things we do really well as far as a platform, a software platform. One, we're going to help them share their promos, so distribute their promotions. And I use the term promotions really loosely. It doesn't mean deals or discounts. It could be a value add or a bundle or a package or just an event that you want to promote. So we use promotions very liberally in that sense. So we help them distribute their promotions across multiple channels. Mostly online channels. So you think email, websites, mobile apps, social media channels. So think about those types of those channels. Now there's some others as well that can be leveraged offline to drive to an online landing page, which leads to the second thing we do really well, which is conversion. So we help take that customer who may not be thinking about your center at that time, but then they see something in your social media feed or their social media feed, or they get an email and they go to a landing page, and that landing page is just on doing one thing specifically, and that's converting that customer. And we really are focused on driving that, what we call an impulse conversion. They weren't thinking about it. They were just checking their email like, oh, that's cool. Something from the summit. Let me go check that out. They click on it, and then it pulls it up, and then they say, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to go buy that now. And now they may not use it for a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of days, but we're capturing that conversion, that impulse conversion. And then the third thing is collection, right? So we're going to help collect customer data. That's email addresses, birth dates, purchase history, what attractions they like, those types of things that are going to help that center to either leverage in their own marketing efforts or to feed right back into our system to keep those past customers coming back in more frequently because we've collected that information. So those are the three areas that we do things really well in our.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to see it as it becomes more ubiquitous, but like the real power of the data collection on their customers and how they can really use that for their other marketing efforts is something that people just don't typically see. Like how much you can make out of it because you have the profiles or the data and use that for your other efforts is really impressive. And that's one of the first things we do. And I love seeing that you guys make that one of your core features.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look at some of our data, and this is an aggregate, right, across all of our customer base. And so it's going to vary from region to region, from center to center, but we see that for every email address collected, the core value, when used through our platform at least, that's not even to say using it, leveraging in other marketing avenues and tools, but just through our platform, it's $1 of annual revenue for every email address collected that you'll be able to get. You may not have ever had that. Every birthday collected with an email address is $5 of revenue. And that's because not everybody who's going to get information about booking a party is going to book a party, but in aggregate, by collecting those email addresses, by collecting those birthdays, and then doing something about it, sending something actionable is basically, hey, we got another birthday, another $5 added to the top line. So it's pretty cool when you really are able to leverage that customer data.
Right. Yeah. And then recurring too. So it keeps coming every year.
Oh yeah. This isn't like one time $5. It's going to keep coming every year. And the goal ultimately is to increase the overall per cap of that visit when they come in the door, but then also increase the number of visits. So your total lifetime value of that customer that you've spent money to acquire, your return on that investment to capture that customer up front is going to just increase over time by increasing the frequency of visits and then also increasing how much they spend with you when they're actually there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then not only that, but it's free to reach out to an email. Whereas if you're using other methods like Facebook and Google Ads, which we do recommend, but every time you want to communicate through that, you got to pay for it. Whereas this, like once you have it, it's yours.
That's exactly right. Yeah, most advertising costs money. And I think it's okay as long as you're driving somewhere. So you said you recommend running Google ads and Facebook ads. Completely recommend that as well. That's not something that Hownd does. But Hownd has, while we'll push into a social media feed, we're not going to drive the Facebook ads and the Google ads that absolutely they should be doing. But what are you sending them to ultimately? Are you sending them back to your website that doesn't have a conversion mechanism to capture, or are you just sending them to something else? You want to send them to a landing page or to some place that's going to capture that interest right away. And even if you're going to send it back to the website, make sure your website has the tools in order to convert that customer once they land there, instead of just making them see, oh, that looks cool, that looks interesting, maybe I'll go and visit there someday.
Yeah.
No, you want something that's going to capture them, say, they buy something or claim something that's then going to get them to come in and actually visit.
Right. Yeah, because that's something that like try to explain to people as well, is that the conversion rate is massive. Because if you're sending them to a landing page that's not converting, so you're spending X dollars in advertising, you send them to a page, it converts at 1% or something like that. If you can just bump that up to 5%, you're spending the same amount of money, but now you have 5 times the return. It's crazy.
Yeah, when you're talking, especially in high volume like that, incremental improvements that you can make. And this is where we're always A/B testing our landing page designs to make sure the layout. And we just recently this year made a massive update to our landing pages, and that update has driven up to 50% increase in conversions from the old landing page. 50% is massive. We would have been happy with 10% increase, right? Because again, in volume, each conversion percentage just increases your total gross margin, right? Improves your gross margin because your net advertising costs are the same, your hard costs. So you're just going to drive more top line ultimately.
Exactly.
And like your top line is obviously what you want to drive if you can.
Exactly. Yeah. Once people realize that it's a real game changer, like small tweaks over here can be big tweaks over here.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's a little bit about how you got into it and what you guys do. Tell me a little bit about some of the things you're seeing work today. I think you said you're in maybe 1,000 locations or so. What are some things that you're seeing across the board for your customers that is working really well for them?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about people who are leveraging the Hound platform, what they're seeing success in, frankly, it varies wildly by the attraction mix of that particular center. So
sure.
Yeah, we're a little over 1,000 family entertainment centers, or there's the shift in naming structure from family entertainment to location-based entertainment, because obviously it's not always around families. And so when you look at that location-based entertainment mix, it really depends on the type of attraction, the attraction mix. What works really well is when you can bundle things together. For example, if you offer bowling and laser tag and arcade and F&B, if you can find a way to bundle or package a couple of those things together, that really helps. One, because it drives your overall, again, the per cap up, but people feel like they're getting some sort of value from that bundle. So that's helpful. But if you're a bowling center with a bar and maybe some pool tables and that kind of stuff, then really it's about trying to fill in the gaps where you may not have leagues coming in and that are driving your time, and maybe your open bowl isn't as busy. Try to fill in gaps by running special promotions, that kind of thing. And typically, again, if you bundle even something basic like F&B, pizza, and an hour of bowling or something like that, it's always because it's creating a holistic experience. And I think that's if there was one overarching thing across all these different attractions and really across the economy. I'm sure some people that listen to your podcast have read The Experience Economy by Joe Pine, and we are really moving fast into the experience economy, and people aren't looking to just go and do one thing. They want to go and have an overall experience, whether that's on their own or with their friends or the family. And so when you can help them create that experience, again, by creating those bundles or whatever, those packages, just guide them along where they don't have to go and think about it, but leave some opening for serendipity and opportunity once they're there. I think that's going to help create that type of improved guest experience. It's going to get them to come back in more frequently. People, unless you're a league bowler or you're really treated as a sport, people aren't typically just going out for the afternoon and they're just going to go bowl for an hour or 2 hours, right? Like they're going to make an experience of it. Either they're going to have dinner at your place and also bowl and have some drinks, or they're going to come and bowl and maybe they'll leave if they don't feel like they can get that full guest experience. They'll leave and have dinner somewhere else or have drinks afterwards or whatever. So the more that you can create that holistic experience, the better. And I feel like that's what's driving sort of the shift, or I don't want to call it a revolution. It's not like that dramatic, but that shift in F&B as well. So you find that just the people's expectations of what they can come and eat and what they can come and drink while they're bowling is dramatically increasing, like those expectations. It's important, again, to create that holistic experience.
Yeah, no, I really like that how you use the word guide, because it's almost like the package becomes the guide. Because I think a lot of people overestimate how well people know their products because they know them really well. But if you've never been to a place, it's not like someone says, here's all the things you can do here. They're just left up to figure out what they do. If you have that package, it's almost like, here's the best experience you could have. Like when you go to a restaurant and you ask the waitress, what's good here? Or what are your favorite? What do you recommend? that package almost is like that recommendation. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that can be done. It's like the individual ticketed theme parks or amusement parks do that really well. I'm not talking about the ones where you come in and pay a single gate price and go in and get to experience everything like Disneyland or Universal or whatever. I'm talking more about the smaller, like more regional based parks, right? So,
Okay.
but what they do is they have these different play packages and bundles, and they're bundling what they feel like are either their highest attractions or their most age appropriate attractions, and you can get these different packages and bundles. So it's that curated experience. So I can go to Fun Spot in Orlando for the first time, and I can buy a package versus having to go there, wander around, pay to go on this one, pay to go on this one, and not really know how to get the best experience possible while I'm there.
Yeah. And then you're reducing their decision risk. So instead of them, I wonder if this is going to be the best thing to do, or, oh, I should have done that instead, especially if they can't get to all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes it's depending on the size of your entertainment center or venue. Sometimes it almost becomes like it's overwhelming. So I feel like I'm just going to come and bowl, and I'll get a beer, and I'm going to right with because I don't get to experience anything else there because there's almost too much choice. And especially if you're with a group, one person wants to do this, one person wants to do this. Like, hey guys, got us a couple of packages here. Let's go and go do a round of laser tag, an hour of bowling, and then get some drinks. And now we've had this sort of experience. We didn't have to think about it. We didn't debate about it and wait time.
You don't have to risk saying, hey, let's go do this. And then it turns out to be not that fun. And now it's your fault. So you reduce that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's really cool. So packaging the experiences. Anything else that you're seeing work really well? I really like that one. Anything else that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think just in general, the overall increase in guest experience, I think, is important. In fact, a good friend of mine, Josh Liebman, he also has a guest experience podcast that he does, and it's really focused around improving the guest experience. And I think so not only is it helping to curate that experience, but making sure that you are providing a quality experience across the board. Again, you could have a really great bowling, the best top of line bowling lanes, all like the equipment could be really good. But if I walk in and the bathrooms are just like kind of outdated or dirty or whatever, or I walk in and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go once I first walk in the door, like those are all things that start to chip away at that overall experience. And I want to leave like I felt like I came in, I was greeted, I was guided, and I had a good quality experience across the board. And that just elevates it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have a good experience if that isn't the case.
Sure.
Right? But I could have an even better experience, which means I'm going to tell more people about it. So that's the best free marketing you can ever get is word of mouth marketing. So I'm going to tell other people about it. I'm probably going to come back in again and maybe bring other people with me that didn't experience the first time. And so I'll become an evangelist if I have that really good, solid guest experience. So I would just say that what are the trends that's leading, especially for some of the new builds, the new centers that are popping up? They're really focused on the attraction mix, the flow, and everything else that's going to give the best guided and curated overarching guest experience possible. But it can absolutely be done in existing centers, right? In existing alleys. So I think it's the focus on the holistic experience inside and once I actually walk through the doors.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot because the proprietors who I talk to who are doing really well and have super well-run facilities, they do that whether they know it explicitly or not, but they pay attention to all the little details of what that person's experience is like. And a lot of times they don't even call it that, but subconsciously that's what they're creating for their customers. And then, like you said, you have the word of mouth from that. And then the repeat is, if you want to double the size of your business, all you have to do is get the people so the bell curve of people frequency. If most people on the average is 5, on the other side, you'll have people who are 1, and the other side of less likely is maybe like 10 or something, or 100. But if you can get that bell curve to shift to the right, just a couple of degrees, to go from like your average number of frequency of visits per year is 3 to go to 5, you basically just doubled your business just by getting people to come in more frequently. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can you play some interesting things with your team members to get them to buy into this. And because I think sometimes people say, well, like, how am I supposed to get my team to be extra friendly or reach out, or like, how do you change some of that culture? And I was listening to the Attraction Pros podcast. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to listen to those guys. Josh is actually on that one too, but then it's also a friend. And so they run the Attraction Pros podcast. And I was just listening to the most recent one. They went on a tour of amusement parks and stuff. So not really relevant to the bowling center world, except for the fact that one of the interesting things, and this is what helps drive improvement, a lot of the really good parks ask for feedback, but not just like generic review feedback, that kind of thing, but ask for specifically feedback on, hey, tell us something great that somebody did for you while they were there. Meaning, did one of the attendants really help out? Or so how was the front desk staff, or that kind of thing? Like, how were your servers? But tell us something good about something that somebody did for you. So now you're creating this sort of like mini internal competition, and it's not a competition, but like peer competition, where I want to make sure that I'm getting, if John over there is getting all this feedback, but I'm not, how's that looking internally to my boss or to the owner or the GM?
Right. Yeah.
So it could be one way that gets people to think not just about how was my experience more generally, but like, how did this person really help improve my experience? And that's something that was a great takeaway from that. And so I guess I'm passing it on here, where that's one small thing that you could do to try to help identify, ways to make improvements, but also help capture feedback, qualitative feedback from your guests.
Right. Yeah, almost like what matters to them, and then how do you measure it so that you can improve on it. So if you're tracking your employees on that, and that's the KPI, that's what they're going to try to increase. But then you get the, like you said, the qualitative data, where it's like, what do they actually care about? Yeah,
exactly. What do they care about? And then like, how are my team members doing, right? Actually out there interacting with people, and what are they doing that can then drive further positive reinforcement and be passed on as opportunities for somebody else to do as well down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. That's cool. So yeah, I like that general experience theme, because you're right, it is an experience economy and we're fast headed towards that.
Yeah.
Awesome. As far as building on that, what we're approaching to, tell me a little bit about where you see things going in like the next 3 years or so, plus or minus a year.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we'll go with the experience theme for a minute and draw a line to, I think, 3 to 5 years. But I think ultimately we have to be looking in this industry, particularly because there's almost like a backwards the wrong term here, but you see the entertainment industry is also now coming into the location-based entertainment. So I'm talking about not the entertainment industry and our type of entertainment. I'm talking about like the on-screen, so television, brand, movies, Netflix, etc. So you have Stranger Things. Stranger Things during COVID, between 2020 and 2021, they had a drive-through pop-up experience in LA, and I took my son to that because it's a quick drive from Phoenix to LA. Yeah, and that was all built around the Stranger Things IP. Now there's a pop-up Stranger Things experience that's going on in New York City, and actually in a few other cities across the world as well, all built around the IP and brand. And Netflix is driving that, coming back in and almost creating these immersive experiences built around their IP, but doing that in a location-based environment. I say all that because we need to make sure that we're thinking about how are we evolving in a way that can compete with these types of IP and branded experiences. Now, that isn't to say that bowling has to try to compete with Stranger Things. That's not my point. They do have to elevate the overall experience, that when I can come and bowl with my friends, I need to have an experience that is at least going to give me something, like if I've got to choose between one or the other, for my Friday night, that the overall total experience is going to at least be interesting enough to compete against that. And so when we look 3 to 5 years out, I see a few things happening. One, you can't ignore what's happening from like a VR and AR standpoint. Yeah. And I use that very loosely. I don't mean that people are going to be strapping on VR headsets and then bowling, but AR, some of the things that Brunswick's doing, Cubic AMF are doing within their lanes, and changing and gamifying would have historically just been straight down the lane bowling lanes, gamifying that experience so that, again, it can continue to be a multi-generational, inclusive, and accessible, as we talked about earlier, accessible sport. So that gamification is going to continue, but also the attraction mix is going to continue. We're already seeing the days of single attraction venues are sort of dying off. Yeah, or evolving, I should say. right?
Yeah.
So the
Which
number
is
of just
difficult.
bowling alleys. Yeah, and it depends on the market too. So
Right.
you also need to be very aware of what's happening in your market and
Hmm.
where the opportunities exist, but making sure that there's multiple attractions so you can increase the dwell time and experience time of that particular guest to go from 1 hour because they came to bowl and then they're gone to 3 hours now because they came to bowl and then they did some climb on some walls, or
Hmm.
they went and played some arcades, or they did an escape room or
Yep.
whatever, but they had multiple things to do, or they did a laser maze, etc. So
Yep.
many different things. So improving that attraction mix, and then really making sure that it's an immersive experience. I think we're going to see a trend towards overall themed venues. So where I can go in and I may be bowling, but it's a part of an overarching experience and theme, even
Mm.
though I'm bowling. And so I think we'll see some evolution in that direction as well. And again, just as people are looking for more novelty, more interest, we want to make sure we're delivering on that, and also more technology, so more tech-infused experiences. That's why we're seeing a big revolution now happening in mini golf as well. So
Yeah.
tech-infused mini golf. I don't know if you've seen Pop Stroke
I haven't,
or
no.
some of those that are popping up. They're basically, so Creative Works does some of this as well. They have some of this tech-infused mini golf where everything is tied to the ball itself has an
Hmm.
RFID chip. So now I don't have to keep score at
Oh,
all. I can
cool.
just play golf, and
Yeah.
it keeps score, and I can drink and hang out with my friends and just play some mini golf, and
That's really cool. Yeah.
I don't even have to worry about it. And it's going up ramps, and when it goes to the ramps, it like runs down a few things, lights up. There's TV screens everywhere, and so it's
Oh,
a
that's
much more
awesome.
immersive mini golf experience. That's
Yeah.
happening. Putt Shack, Pop Stroke, those are things that are happening on that front.
Hmm.
Anyway, all that to say, making sure we're looking at ways where we can infuse technology, tie it back to my mobile experience while I'm there. So how do you
Yeah.
enhance that overall mobile experience, tying with my physical experience? And then the last thing I'll say is, and this is a little bit further out, so not the next 3 to 5 years, but thinking about how do I continue my experience when I leave the venue? So how
Mm.
can I stay connected with either your brand or your entertainment or your whatever it is, and how can I stay engaged in an interesting experiential way that's going to, but I have to then come back in to close some kind of loop, right? So thinking
Right.
about how can you keep people engaged while they're out and then draw them back in order to spin up that engagement wheel again, and then that flywheel,
Right.
and then go back out, gone for a couple of weeks, and then come back in because I want to re-engage again. And so tying the online, offline, in
Yeah.
venue, out of venue experience
Hmm.
together is something that we need to be thinking about collectively as an industry, but also
Yeah.
as we look at bowling center. Now, I'll put a giant caveat stamp on that. It completely depends on where you are, right? If you're in a rural place like that type, if you're a bowling alley in a rural venue that's built around families and regular league bowlers, etc., then that evolution is going to either be farther out or not as relevant or important. If you're a
Sure.
bowling center right in the middle of a metro area, then you absolutely need to be thinking about what that evolution is.
Right. Yeah. You got a lot more competition. Yeah. And I can see the person who can crack that nut and get them to come in and reduce that or increase that frequency on an annual basis is a lot of money to be made for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess Hound can help bring customers in, but at the end of the day, in more frequently, that's what our platform is built for. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
this is why I talk so heavily about the experience, the guest experience. If they're not having a quality guest experience, it doesn't matter what we're going to do. Like, we're not the ones building the brand loyalty or driving that frequency. Like, we're a tool and a platform to do that. Bowling center is that experience. The venue is that experience that the consumer is ultimately looking for. We're just helping try to get something in front of the consumer more frequently so that they take action, but it's got to deliver on that experience
Yeah.
ultimately.
We can get them there, but they got to keep them coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. They're the only ones that can build the brand loyalty and that venue loyalty, that experience loyalty. We can't do that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're coming up on time here. I want to be respectful of your time, but I did have a couple smaller specific questions that I want to ask you about. The first one is, what are you guys working on today at Hound? Like, what's your top priority, or tell me a little bit about, okay, this is what we're working on today.
Yeah, we have a few things. One is just going further down the line of helping that consumer to discover experiences in their area. So right now we're really good at driving, increasing past customers and the number of visits. So helping get those
Right.
past customers come in more frequently. We're okay and like pretty good at getting the nearby consumer who doesn't know about you to come in,
Yeah.
especially in some areas. So we're really doubling down on that area to make sure that we can really help to, I mean, some of that's through partnerships. So partnerships with a group like Bowl Now, right? But others is through some of our own stuff that we're doing as well to help the consumers discover experiences in their area. So we're making some headway. There'll be some announcements and some other stuff coming out as we make developments there. But overall, what we're always working on is increasing the number of channels in which we can distribute our promotions, that the merchant, that the venue can share their promotions. So increasing distribution network, improving that. And then also just always looking and refining our conversion, ways that we can convert customers. So again, that big landing page was a big lift. Just recently announced that our inbox placement, so our deliverability on our emails, has gone from 90% now to 97%.
Wow.
So it means 97% of people are getting our emails in their inbox. So that's and we talk about the small percentage improvements.
I know.
We went from 90 to that's 7% though.
It's it makes all the difference.
When you put that at the top of the conversion funnel, makes all the difference. Those are the things we're working on. Are always like those are some of the smaller optimizations we're always making.
That's awesome. Yeah, as someone who knows the back end complexity of that deliverability, that's an impressive number.
Yeah,
That's
no,
really
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, awesome. The only other thing, actually, I did want to ask you about one thing, because I think it's something that people don't think of, but it makes intuitive sense as soon as you talk about it, and you guys are doing it, is the Wi-Fi piece. So talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people overlook that. It's they're leaving dollars on the ground when all they have to do is install one thing and you got your customer database.
Absolutely. So this falls into that collect category. So distribute, convert, and collect. So for us, one of the biggest opportunities for a center to collect email addresses and birthday data and everything else is through that Wi-Fi. And at this day and age, it's probably likely that a lot of bowling centers are already providing Wi-Fi of some kind. Whenever I ask the question like, hey, so are you actually collecting an email address? Like almost none of them are doing anything. And that Wi-Fi is valuable to that consumer. And so I say that consumer is willing to exchange value for that. And they also know that the email address has value. They'll put in their email address. So our platform, our guest Wi-Fi platform, we can either provide the access points, and those are no cost. So we just provide those as part of our fee, or we can work with your existing infrastructure. So they already have access points. We can go in and just lay our software over the top of their access points. And then we provide a portal for the consumer to put in an email address, put in potentially some other information if you want to collect that. They can connect through Facebook if they wanted to as well, through the Facebook login, but put an email address and then they get online. Now we redirect them to a landing page. So if you want to help increase per cap, redirect them to a gift card landing page or some sort of F&B upsell package. So we drive them to a landing page to get more conversions while they're there. And then our platform does bounce back promotions. So 3 days later, they're going to get a promotion from us, from you ultimately, but from our platform, that's going to get them to come back in again, say, hey, thanks for visiting and thanks for jumping on the Wi-Fi. Here's the promotion. You can come back in and maybe it's a $5 game card or something like that to come back in and spend more time there, come back in for another visit. So not only are you collecting that valuable data, but now you're able to automate that bounce back as well once they connected.
Yeah, that's so huge, because a lot of times people have databases that are just like outdated and you don't know the last time they were there. And now you have a trigger where it's contextual, right? Most marketing, the more in context it is, the better it's going to do. Now you have hey, thanks for coming in. But unless you have that connected to your POS, and almost nobody does, and it's a separate thing, you don't know when they came in last. Now they're telling you just by opting in with the Wi-Fi. That's so clutch.
Yeah. And then when they come in again, they're going to auto connect. And then we know they've got another visit. And then you can send them another thing again and keep that virtuous cycle going.
Exactly. Yeah, you're finishing that loop. That's so nice to have. I didn't even think of that when you were first telling me about it, but that piece makes it a no-brainer, and it's not expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So the last thing that I wanted to ask you, and we'll sign off here, is just the number one piece of advice. And I have a feeling I know where it's going, but the number one piece of advice you would offer for a proprietor, if it's maybe they bought a new center or they're just looking to double down their efforts, what would you tell them?
I'd love to, I think I'd almost beat a dead horse with making sure you have a great guest experience. So I'm not going to go down that path, actually. What I'll say, the single greatest thing you could do, and whether using guest Wi-Fi or you're putting a pop-up on your website or whatever you're doing is to capture an email address from an existing customer, from a customer who's walked in, or from a prospective customer, maybe somebody's visited your website or something. Just get that email address. If you can get other information like birth dates, cell phone numbers, etc., all that's great. Just get that email address, know who your customer is, and be able to send to them something so that they can come in again and they can hear from you and you can stay connected with them and they can stay engaged with you. It's so easy to just spend so much money and time and effort and hire great staff, et cetera. But if you can't communicate with your customer when they leave your venue, then you've lost a massive opportunity to bring them back in and increase the number of visits. So do whatever you can, even if it's a pad of paper that, hey, sign up for our e-list, right, on this paper, put down your email address, even if it's something as simple as that, and we'll send you a $5 coupon or something. Like, just do something to incentivize that consumer to give you their information so that you can so you can follow up with them down the line and keep them engaged.
I absolutely love that. You are preaching to the choir, Brandon. That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned it. Cool. That's all I have for today. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to either reach out to you or find out more about Hownd?
Sure. To find out more about Hownd, you can always just visit hownd.com. It's with a W, so HOWND.com. You can reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brandon Willey, or Brandon@hownd.com. Always happy to talk with anybody about anything. I love this industry. I see a lot of centers. I see a lot of what's working, what doesn't work, and always happy to have a conversation, even if it's not about Hownd, just about the industry in general. So it's been great to have that with you.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it. Definitely one of my favorite conversations. Appreciate you taking the time. This has been fun.
Absolutely, Forrest. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thanks again for coming on.
See you later.